Hey, what's up, guys? Zane with Everything Vive here. I'm here with Ronnie right now. What's going on, Ronnie?
Not too much. What's up?
Not too much. Well, we made it to episode 2. Today's episode is going to be a fun one because we're just going to talk about some games we've been playing. And so, yeah, I don't know. Ronnie, you want to start us off?
Sure. So it looks like the first game we wanted to talk about was Raw Data. And Raw Data was a game that I personally was excited about before it had even, been officially launched on Steam. I noticed a lot of different YouTubers and other people playing Vive were getting into, I don't know if it was an alpha or a beta or what, but they were getting early access to the game before it was widely available on Steam. And you could just tell that this was going to be a game that, was more polished than a lot of the other games that were out on Steam at the time, that really had some cool gameplay mechanics. You were finally going to be able to, step out of just your one area and be able to move around environments when engaging in combat. And I can tell you, as soon as I loaded it up, I was not disappointed.
Yeah. And, I played this, I think actually the first time I ever touched the Vive, or I just had my first experience with the Vive, I played this at your place, and
yep.
Again, mind blown.
It's definitely a showcase piece. I mean, if you're talking about something that, from the very beginning you load it up and you see your hands in the game more so than, they've modeled hands that react to the way you move. When you move the controllers, the wrist kind of rotates similar to how you would be rotating your wrists. And, you pick up the gun in one hand and you can, grab the clip with the other from your waist. And, it was one of the first games that had really good reloading mechanics and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so right away, like you can tell that this is going to be something special. The graphics are more advanced than most. You do need a pretty strong system to run the game, I would say. But, once you're in it, the atmosphere of playing is pretty crazy. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And just a quick note about that one as well. It recently crossed, I think, $1 million in sales. It's the first game to do so for the Vive.
Yeah, I think we were talking about that earlier. Actually,
yeah.
That's pretty amazing considering. I mean, we're still in the early stages of VR. There aren't a ton of kits out there, and to think that someone's already, a developer's already been able to make a game that can push, that many units to make, over $1 million. That's pretty incredible, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I just remember seeing that as a quick news brief, but definitely one of the coolest games, and I think one of the top rated games right now.
Okay, well, I know, Zane, actually, you had recently purchased a game that you wanted to talk about. I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet, but if you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, so this is another first-person shooter, Onward, and it seems like it's still a early access title. It's about $25 as of this recording, and it's multiplayer, which is really cool. It's military based, so it's a 4-on-4 multiplayer shooter. So that was the first one. I'm sure there have been others, but this is the first one that I've really experienced, and some glitches, got to be honest. There's some glitches in there. Sometimes I've found myself underneath the tunnel, underneath the road, and had to restart the game. But on the whole, I mean, just the mechanics, like you were talking about, the reloading mechanics. I mean, this takes what, I think Raw Data may have started and brings it to another level, because there's all different types of weapons, and you can interact with these weapons on very intimate levels, and just the reloading mechanics and how you use them.
In general, that's something I think VR does so well compared to other, is you really get a sense of feel. You can you feel the weapon, or you feel whatever the game mechanic is. You get a kind of a more physical sense of what the motion is like.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the things that's satisfying about those reloading mechanics is when everything's clicking right and you're in the moment and you're kind of you feel like it's almost like a skill that you've developed.
Exactly.
It makes you feel special.
And I mean, yeah, exactly what you're talking about. And so I know you're only pressing triggers, but ultimately, like, the movements that you're doing feel very natural in terms of, or they become almost like second nature in terms of, reloading a gun, or utilizing some of the other tools that they give you. And so
you feel like a Marine or something that's been trained to.
Exactly. And so that one's been a fun one. I mean, it's awesome to have a pretty solid multiplayer format. I think the entire game is actually multiplayer. And so just, well, one, obviously being able to connect with other people through online gaming, through the Vive and through virtual reality is pretty cool. But, just in general, the gameplay is pretty fluid. I will say one thing, though, just because this does not use teleportation to move. It uses the thumb trackpad, which took a little while for me to get used to, because I think what the Vive had going for it was being able to walk around in areas without having that nausea of moving, you moving without your body physically moving.
Sure.
And so...
do you think there's any benefits to... I mean, why do you think... I haven't gotten a chance to play the game yet, but why do you think they chose to use a trackball method or something rather than the teleportation?
Well, I think they wanted to make it as realistic as possible. And in comparing it to other games, if you were to view other players, sometimes you don't see their whole entire body. You'll just see a face helmet and hands or guns or something like that. Here, you see a soldier, and when you actually duck down or squat, like, it shows the entire soldier doing that. And so I don't know if that's the motion tracker, the motion tracker's capturing that, or if the game is just designed to do that whenever your body moves in a certain way. But it's definitely, in my opinion, it's done so to make it seem as if it is much more of a realistic type of movement. And so it took me a little while to get used to it. For some, when I start moving, I almost kind of like march in place, just because it makes me, like the physiology of it makes it feel just a little bit more natural.
Oh, I'm gonna have to try that, actually. Now I'm kind of, before I was interested. Now I'm very interested, just because I want to see what it's doing with that type of motion and how it compares to a lot of the other stuff that's on the Vive right now.
Definitely. Well, I mean, you can give it a try once we're done here.
Yeah. No, I look forward to that.
But yeah, we had a couple other games, I think.
Yeah, so, and I had just gotten a chance to play this briefly, but when you were talking in Onward about, the multiplayer capacity and all that kind of stuff, actually a game that I'm really excited to talk about is Rec Room.
Yes.
And
yes, indeed.
I barely got to play this more than, I don't know, probably 15 minutes or so, and already this is one of the more exciting games that I've seen on the Vive so far, and one that I like. I'm really, really excited to go back home and play more on my own Vive. And the idea of Rec Room is basically you're almost at a YMCA with a bunch of friends and acquaintances, people you don't know, whatever. But you're in all
real people, though.
Yeah, you're in a large space with other players, just interacting like humans would in real life. And so this is an online multiplayer game, and you start out in a dorm room, and you get to, very basically kind of set up almost like, a me-type avatar, which is some very simple, skin color, hair color, that kind of stuff. And, you have a very cartoony appearance, almost like Rayman or something, where, you don't have arms and legs, you just have little hands and you're...
It reminds me of the Nintendo Wii and those little characters running around.
It does. And so once you've created your avatar, then you go out into the main room, and all of a sudden you see all these avatars kind of running around, and they're interacting in ways that are actually really fun, and people in it seemed really... They understood what it was that was cool about interacting with other people in a virtual space.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, as soon as I walked into that main lobby area, I saw some other players around, and I saw basketball on the floor. I went and picked up the basketball and tossed it over to one of the other avatars that were there. And, you can talk to each other using the microphones. And right away, he caught it. And I said, hey, wow, this is, really cool. You want to play catch? We started playing catch. 2 or 3 other people came by. Because this is my first experience, I think I started taking the lead. I said, hey, if we all stand in a circle, we can all just pass the ball back and forth to each other. And what do you know? Everybody's got into a circle, and we started, passing the ball from person to person. And the last guy at the end, I didn't realize there was a basketball hoop. He kind of just shot the ball up and scored a basket. And it was just so fun. It was really, and you could tell everybody was just having fun together, because they thought it was so crazy that we were legitimately interacting with each other in this way. And this is all before I got into any game.
Yep.
This was just a lobby, and this was not really like this wasn't a game or anything that the developers had designed or anything like that. This was just simply us interacting with each other using the objects that were in this space. Mm-hmm. So I was really impressed by that, and I think in general, when VR experiences will get to that point where they just let people figure out what they want to do
they're totally
with each other.
Yep.
Yeah, these are the kind of things that I think are the most exciting aspects of VR. So, anyways, it's free right now. I don't know if they're going to add any kind of downloadable, DLC or add-on games in the future, but right now it's 100% free. So I think if you have a Vive and you have access to, obviously you'd have access to Steam. You should go check it out. It's definitely worth playing. So, and I like I said, we'll probably get into more later about the different mini games and all of that stuff. I didn't even get to talk about that, but rest assured that there's a lot more than what I just spoke about, hidden in that game. So.
One word: multiplayer paintball. We just talked about a military game going 4-on-4, but this paintball it's just so much more fun. I think, in my opinion,
it's really cool.
But yeah, it's definitely up there, and I'm excited to actually play it more and just kind of explore it further.
Sure. So I mean, we talked about a couple of games that have strong multiplayer elements. Mm-hmm. But I mean, me personally, as a PC gamer from before playing VR, I've always loved single player experiences.
Yeah.
And I know I haven't gotten a chance to play this one, but I know you wanted to talk about Call of the Starseed, which my understanding is it's one of the best single player experiences that can be had on the Vive right now.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't obviously played every game out there. I've tried to do my research in terms of seeing what the gameplay experiences are like, but it's called Episode 1, Call of the Starseed. Really weird name, not sure what it means, and I'm sure, just not sure what it means, but it looks like they're planning to have more, which is actually really exciting because, like Ronnie was saying, it's all a one-player experience. I think the basic premise of the game is you go to this island and you have to find your sister, and she leaves a bunch of clues for you. It's suspenseful without being scary. I mean, there are definitely times I'm going through a tunnel with only a flashlight and, feel the hairs rising on the back of my neck because I'm not sure what's going to pop out. But overall, just I love the story element to it, and I think that may be what's missing in a lot of the Vive games right now. I think we're just at a level, or virtual reality is just at a level where it's a lot of mini games, people really exploring what capabilities they can have or reach at this point with the technology. Mm-hmm. But the game overall, and the reason that I'm bringing it up is because, again, at the time of this recording, it comes as one of the release games with the Vive, and I got the Vive just maybe a month ago or so, and I know you got yours a while back.
I had one of the launch Vive packages, and it didn't come with Call of Starseed. It came with a different package, but I do have Call of Starseed. I haven't gotten a chance to play it too much yet.
Oh, you really should.
Yeah, I've heard great things about it. So
yeah, I mean, just a mini review, like I was saying earlier. It's just you can interact with the entire environment. There's a whole levels that you can go through and places to explore, and just I really love what they've done with it, and it's, to me, so far one of the best experiences in terms of just more of a long format game. I think it took me about 5 or 6 hours to complete. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that it probably could have taken more because I really could have discovered many of the other, or explored many of the other areas. And I think Steam has those achievements you can unlock for games, and I think I only got maybe 40% of them, even though finishing the game. So there's other things that you could be doing within the game, and I think that's really exciting because when I go to play round 2, I'll be checking out different areas and really trying to take a further dive into it. But definitely one of the coolest experiences, and recommend it for anyone. I mean, if you're buying a Vive now, you're gonna get it. So I highly recommend playing it. But if you got the Vive before and you're looking for a one-player game, it's this is one you should really be looking at.
Okay. Well, speaking of games that came with the Vive, whether you purchased your Vive at launch or you are just jumping into it now, one set of games that you'll definitely get with your purchase is going to be the Lab, which is a set of mini games that were developed by Valve, who's runs Steam and was the one that kind
Half of the-
they were behind the technology that that powers the Vive, and they were the ones that more or less went to HTC with the whole initiative. So I think the lab is incredible, and I've always been a huge fan of Valve, even before Steam. Half-Life 1 was an amazing game, and Counter-Strike, and then Half-Life 2 came out, and it really showed. And everyone knows the huge success that they've had with the Steam platform in general and online downloadable content. The lab is really, we've seen games like Portal and Portal 2 and Team Fortress, all those kind of games that have came out since. But the lab is really kind of a tour de force of what Valve is going to be able to do once they get a chance to really put out a full game in VR. And I've had so many great experiences with the few mini games that are there. If you want to talk, Zane, about what your favorite games from the lab are.
Sure. Well, there's obviously one favorite which I think everybody loves, and that's Longbow. And so I don't know if Ronnie mentioned it, but it's the lab is really just a collection of mini games, and so it really introduces you to the different capabilities of VR. And I think Valve, obviously being the creators behind this, knew exactly where their strengths were and definitely played to them in this game. And so you were saying my favorite, it's got to be Longbow. It's an archery game, and I know there's several that have come out since, but right now it to me, as for the ones that I've played at least, it's the most fluid, and it feels, I don't want to say so real, because I think that's a little cliche, but it definitely gets you in there. I work up a sweat, and it's one of those things where you take the headset off and you're like, whoa, where was I?
No, and I think one of the best things about the lab, when you talk about, you mentioned, Zane, Valve knows kind of what the strengths are of VR, and they were able to really capitalize on that in those small demos in the lab. Well, Longbow is a great example of where you take someone like Valve, who has a track record of producing AAA games with an extreme level of polish, and they're able to take that polish and apply it to VR in a way that makes everything feel so solid and so, like you said, real. But I think the realness that you get in a game like Longbow in the lab is a product not only of the VR technology, but also the artistry behind understanding the feedback that a player needs in an environment like that. Like when you're pulling the bowstring in Longbow in the lab, the haptic feedback from the controllers makes it feel like that string is being pulled.
Yep.
And it does it in a way that's really, it's subtle, but it's really, it leaves a lasting impression as well. And they know they don't need to push too far on things like having realistic characters, because they can get those types of things across with cartoony characters, but then focus on the fun and
the real personal experience that you have.
the little things. When you shoot something, it reacts to you. Everything. It reminds me of Half-Life 2 in that respect.
Gotcha. Nothing like Half-Life 2, I think, but
but it reminds me of that in terms of Valve understands that to make a good game, you need a lot of interactivity and a lot of signs of interactivity. And I think all of the demos within the lab, I know we only really got to talk about Longbow, but they all have that sense of, if I touch this or if I interact with this thing, it's going to interact back in a way that's believable.
Yep.
And that's why anytime I'm going to show someone the Vive, I'm no doubt going to bring out something in the lab. So.
Yes, same here. Everyone that I've showed, the lab is one of the first places I take them, just because I know they're going to have fun, and it's going to be one of those whoa, did not realize this technology was here. So I think those are the 5 games that we were looking to cover today. We're obviously playing as much as we can, and we're going to try and cover a couple more. 2 bonus ones, which aren't games, but I think they deserve a mention. The Blue, which actually is the first thing I think you showed me when I put on the Vive headset. Now that's one of the first things that I show to people whenever they come over to test it out.
And the Blue is just like a $10 game made by a company. I believe I'm pronouncing it right. It's Weaver. It's WEVR. Weaver or WeVR. I'm not really sure how they say it, but it was one of the first things that I had tried when I pulled out when I got my Vive all set up. And while it doesn't have a ton of interactivity, it does support room scale, so you can move around. And really the sense of scale and the creation of an environment is what's so strong and impactful on the Blue. I really recommend anyone that wants to show this to parents or other family members, or just ease someone into the VR experience, download the Blue, because you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not a game, but it's one of those where it really immerses you fully into the experience. And I think the other quick mention was Tilt Brush, which is just a lot of fun. If you are a visual artist in any way, shape, or form, get involved with Tilt Brush now. I don't know how or when this technology is going to catch up that a lot of these 3D, because it is three-dimensional art at this point. But whenever the technology gets there, I mean, artists who have mastered this type of platform in a virtual space, where I don't know, but it just, if you're starting now, I just feel like you can be one of the godfathers of this, of wherever like this new visual art medium goes.
Yeah, no, one of the cool things I think of Tilt Brush, and it's created by Google. It's basically a 3D paint program, but as soon as you try it, it's one of those things that you can't really convey to someone unless they actually see it for themselves. Being able to create in 3D space kind of blows your mind, because there's really, you understand space a lot differently when you're in VR, and I think it will allow for people to be more creative than ever before when creating things in 3D. So I think not only creating just art pieces, but also developing games, decorating a room, all that kind of stuff, being able to be in the space while you're creating that content, I think opens up huge possibilities.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, Tilt Brush is amazing.
Visually stunning. There's really nothing else that you could say about that. But yeah, so those are the main games. I think a couple that just throw in passing that I think we were talking about earlier that we're going to try and dive into are Solace Project, Cosmic Trip, and I just downloaded Containment Initiative, which I think you tried a little bit of. It's another zombie shooter. I don't know how many of those they're going to make, but they're always fun to do, and it looks like it has some different elements into it.
Yeah, it looked really, it kind of felt like an old school arcade game in some ways, and then in other ways, kind of a new take on some of the wave-based zombie titles that have been out for the system. So
yep.
I only got to play it for a few minutes so far, but what I played, I liked. So
we'll explore a couple of the games. If you guys have any feedback, just let us know. Or if there's any games you want us to test out and give some feedback on, definitely let us know. And so I think that's where we're at for episode 2. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you soon, or talk again soon.